anything to try and hinder us after such a clear majority voting to leave would no longer be negotiating in good faith. It would lead to things like a unilateral declaration.
Welcome to my channel, y'all. I hope you're having a great day. Well, in the last week, the discussion around Alberta separation has really heated up. And of course, we all know that Jan Arden made a TikTok video on this, and well, she kind of went off the rails. Let's actually take a look at that video, and then we'll talk about it.
Hey, Alberta. Hey, a bunch of separatist wackos. How you doing? Feeling good about yourselves? You're an embarrassment to this country. Everything you have, everything that you have enjoyed, cherished, and benefited from comes from being part of one of the greatest countries on the planet. You guys have your heads so far up your asses that you obviously can't see what you are. The way you are treating Indigenous people, the way you are treating your fellow citizens, your fellow Canadians, you guys are a bunch of creepy little Alberta will never separate from Canada. It's never going to happen because people like me are going to stand up, throw their shoulders back, and keep yelling and keep standing up for what I know is right. And what you guys are doing is...
Well, what do you guys think? I think that she fell off the wagon. I really do, because that is just one crazy rant. Well, not only did it not make a whole lot of sense, but she's talking as if she's got some sort of say in this. She does. I mean, she's got one vote, and all of her friends have a vote. So, yeah, okay, maybe with her and all of her friends, she's got like maybe 2 votes. Maybe all of her fans to get together, maybe she has 3 votes. I really think she fell off the wagon here, because if she thinks that Alberta separatists are wacko, she needs to look in the mirror. She has gone completely nuts. Enough of that washed up old singer. Let's go and take a look at some things that happened at a rally in Calgary where they were talking seriously and respectfully about all of this.
Whether we actually end up having a referendum vote in spring next year and how close the polls look like, I think really changes what the dynamic of that discussion might be next year. If we go into a referendum campaign with yes polling above 40%, then I think everybody's going to have to take the threat of Alberta separating very seriously, and we could see some serious negotiations between the federal and the provincial government prior to the vote even happening. If you look at the Brexit referendum in the UK, the EU offered concessions to the UK in advance of the referendum to try and encourage people to vote against the UK leaving the EU. Obviously it didn't work in the end, but they were so worried about the threat that they made the concessions beforehand. Having said that, if the polls look like there's less of a chance of the referendum succeeding and the yes vote is under 40, it's sort of 35, 36 like it is right now, then I think the need for the federal government to make concessions is much less, and they'll be less inclined to do so. And so the dynamic of the entire discussion during the campaign could be very dependent on what the polls look like going into the start of the campaign.
Well, that's a very good point, because if the polls show at the time of the referendum that support is still only around 36%, well, the federal government's going to continue to screw Alberta over, and Saskatchewan, and, well, all the western provinces, really. But if the momentum towards separation keeps on growing, well, then the federal government will have to take the West seriously and will have to consider at least some concessions to keep Alberta, Saskatchewan, and possibly even BC in confederation. And the other thing to consider is that there hasn't been a sustained focus campaign yet. And with a sustained focus campaign, then there could be even more momentum growing. Some say that it's growing faster now than what the polls indicate. Some people say that their polls show that up to 45% of Albertans are currently in favor of separating. Yes, that's shy of what they need, but it is a significant number, and it does give the Albertans a little bit of negotiation strength. So these washed up old singers who go on rants on TikTok, well, they may be in for a little bit of a surprise.
This is what we're dealing with. You said, Quebec over the years, we have to pander to them. Quebec, our partners in Confederation, we've got to keep Quebec with us. It's so important. When it comes to Albertans, no, then they're self-centered rednecks who have to be pushed down. They don't even have the right to have a referendum. That's what his piece says. He doesn't see us as a province. He sees us as a colony. That's what you read in his attitude. He's an aristocrat who thinks that we're being uppity and we should be shut down. This discussion shouldn't even happen. Well, kiss my ass, Andrew. It's going to happen. And we've got an opportunity. The Laurentian elite don't control the conversation anymore. They don't have the media anymore. We have Rebel, we have Ezra, we have Candace, we have Sheila, we have the Western Standard. And it's our job to take on the Andrews.
Well, Andrew, you can, well, I won't repeat it. I don't know which Andrew he's talking about there. I didn't see the article he's referring to there, but there are a lot of people, and there's a lot of people who respond to my videos and everybody else's videos with a lot of hatred and vitriol towards this idea. They don't believe in democracy, obviously. They're like Jan Arden there, who goes on a rant on TikTok. Well, the truth of the matter is, this is the democratic process, and it will happen. The democratic process will happen. Whether or not the Alberta separation will be successful, that's a different story. But the process will happen. And for everybody who's flipping out about this and freaking out, well, are those people really into democracy, or do they just want people to be controlled by this federal government? That's a really good question that I have. But let's get back to this event in Calgary and see what else this gentleman has to say.
Let's say the Albertans vote in a majority yes to separating. What actual leverage do they have in negotiating with the federal government?
Well, if we're to believe the Clarity Act and the Supreme Court ruling on that, that should begin the process of the rest of the country negotiating that province's exit from the Federation in good faith. As was said in some of the discussions tonight, we should be looking to get 55% or more so that there aren't questions on whether the process was legitimate, and anything to try and hinder us after such a clear majority voting to leave would no longer be voting in good faith, or negotiating in good faith. So then we'd unfortunately would lead to things like a unilateral declaration, but that's getting ahead of ourselves. I like to think that the government then would follow the line of their own laws, and we'll start beginning the process to move this province outside of the Federation.
So if the will of the people is for separation, then the law is on their side. At least that's what the Constitution says. That's what the Clarity Act says. The law is on their side. They can vote to separate. And if I get a chance, I'm actually going to vote for it as well, because when you look at everything that Ottawa and Eastern Canada does to the West, it doesn't make any sense for us to stay within Canada. We don't have any say in the federal election. We just saw that. We don't have much say in even how we control our own resources. All of our tax money gets sent to Ottawa and then gets divvied up amongst the provinces. We don't get it all back. A lot of it goes to other provinces. And as Danielle Smith said earlier, she didn't mind if it went to the less fortunate provinces, so the Maritimes, but she doesn't want Alberta money going to places like Quebec or Ontario, which can stand on their own 2 feet. I would suggest, though, that even the maritime provinces, with maybe the exception of PEI, but probably even PEI, if they actually focused on providing for themselves and developing their own industries, they probably wouldn't need these handouts from the West either. I don't think that these equalization payments really encourages the eastern provinces to better themselves. I don't think that at all, because they're getting all this money from the West and they just keep on sucking it up. And that's one of the huge issues that the West has with this equalization process. So quite frankly, Jan Arden, yeah, you may not have fallen off the wagon. You kind of look like you did. You may not have, but you're definitely clueless when it comes to the democratic process. Albertans will vote, and if more people like you start ranting on TikTok and YouTube and other platforms, you're just going to encourage more and more Albertans to vote in favor of separation. So I guess, hey, why not? Keep on doing it. It's not going to work in your favor. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to know what you think. Put your comments down below. And while you're at it, please like this video, share with your friends and on social media. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell notification so you never miss another video. Also, please join me on Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific time on both YouTube and Rumble for my live stream, where you are invited to join in on the conversation. Finally, if you reside on Vancouver Island and you want to get your Canadian firearms license, I teach the required courses. So if you want to take a course from me, there are links in the show notes of this video to my website where you can sign up for one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.